What? Oh, come on, someone has to remind me. Welcome everyone. This is the first story, Time Palace, in Rabbi Zoe Klein's Candle, Feather, Wooden Spoon. You'll catch up. Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, I was just saying, I felt that this story was an indictment of human behavior in general, but this type of human behavior is how we make progress. Step by step, arguing, complaining, feeling sorry for ourselves, looking at other people's mistakes. These are not necessarily bad things because they don't stop there. They lead to some kind of progress. So that was my criticism with her point of view.
Okay. I have Joyce.
I like what you said, Merle, and I tend to agree with it. Going back to Shabbat, we don't keep Shabbat either, but we enjoy going to my daughter's who does keep Shabbat, and it's like a breath of fresh air. And when we do go there, it's we do take a cleansing breath and let go of everything that's going on in the week and bring in the Shabbos bride. And it's so refreshing and so welcoming for their family, for us, for our makatonim, and to be together and to be able to do it. We're not converted, but we have a new appreciation of what she and her family do and accomplish, and I admire their commitment. It may not be right for us, but it's right for them, and I love what they're doing for them and for their children.
Very nice. And next up, I have Lynn.
Okay, I have a couple of things to talk about here. One, long time ago, Joe's whole sermon was on the value of Shabbat.
Rabbi Dove Taylor.
Dove Taylor. And after that sermon, it made me think, and I agree with Joyce, and for a while we kept Shabbat, and then we didn't. So the irony here is, I think that there are people who think Shabbat and honoring Shabbat is a, quote, waste of time. So the thing is, we're getting so many different perspectives here.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this was written to make us think about time and what we're doing with our time. Notice that these Castle-lights are creators of their own destruction by collecting time, which to me is a waste of time, is to time. So maybe we just should, these words refresh, renew, and remember, I think are key to humankind. And maybe, Merle, it is an indictment of us that we're so caught up in our lives that we don't take time to refresh and renew and remember. Now, I'm not sure what she wants us to remember, maybe our history, maybe our traditions, and getting back in touch with who we are as people. That's, after listening to everyone, that's sort of my take on the story.
Judy.
I had, you know how you go through and you see a podcast and it looks interesting? I found a podcast, it found me, about a buffet table. And the concept is you put every thought you've ever had on the buffet table because the majority of people's thoughts are negative. So if you put everything on the buffet table, when you start to think of something negative, you put it back on the buffet table and you pick something positive. So to me, that Merle's quote of that paragraph about time was so beautiful. She says that you pick up things and the way people look, they should count their own blessings and that they should do a positive change. This reminded me of this concept. Instead of picking on other people or figuring out other people, put your own thoughts on the table and put the negative ones down and pick up the positive ones. And so to me, that was the most positive thing I got.
I love that section.
Yeah, I mean, there's some beautiful
But
sections.
Merle's take on that section was interesting.
Yes, very.
That's how you make progress. Only if the end goal is to make progress. So I once read that fighting with your spouse is only productive if you learn something from that fight. If it's only a fight, it's worthless. So
I'm gonna have to review all my fights. Take that up with my husband, but.
well, it's the same thing here. Why are people complaining? If
It
they're,
used to be not arguing, but disagreeing.
used to be.
It used to be. Look at Congress. Congress
Oh.
cannot disagree successfully
No,
and
everyone-
come to a conclusion.
No, yeah, I
And
mean,
so the word arguing was a problem for me in this.
Yeah. okay. Lee, then Sandy. Abby?
Oh, yeah. All I can say is wow. I mean, this discussion, I wanted to say wow as soon as Merle spoke because their perspective I thought was fabulous in terms of just how we look at what we could perceive as negative and just totally turning it around. And I just think even within a Jewish service, I mean, I see a difference in time where a reform service, it starts at used to be 7:30 or whatever, now it's 6:30, and ends at a certain time. I think a more traditional service, it starts when there's a minyan, it ends when it ends, and so on and so forth. And for me, who's gone back and forth through the years, starting with observing Shabbat as a little girl, where you couldn't color, you didn't do this and you didn't do that, and then walking into Macomb and seeing these wonderful little pencil cases for the kids. I mean, we see it so differently, and my observance has gone all over the place. And I just feel a difference when I do a simple action, like the times where I am able to take the time to light the Shabbat candles, which, is not all the time, but I feel that action, the timing of the action, and it's not necessarily by the calendar, it's wherever I'm comfortable doing it, to be honest. The action and the timing sets the stage for me personally in my mind. So I think, and I've always kind of lived by the Jewish calendar because I was born on Shemini Atzeret, and my father went from the hospital to the synagogue to give me a name, which I treasure that concept. And so I've always thought in terms of the Jewish holidays as part of my life, but whether I observe them, that's another whole story. But I just think but we're not the only tradition. And I think I put that in the chat, learning many years ago about Kairos time and Chronos time and so I think different traditions observe time in different ways, but I think being aware of time is meaningful.
Agreed. Sandy and then Alice.
Well, like Evie, I've been all over the map, grew up Orthodox, married someone who was conservative, didn't do anything for many years when I lived in Israel because nobody around me observed really anything, and came back to the States determined to be a Reform Jew. And I'm very happy at Macomb. And so I understand, what Evie's saying, but listening to Joyce, I have to tell you, I spent Shabbat dinner with one daughter and her partner, and it's wonderful knowing that every Friday night we're going to have a special dinner But we don't do much more than that. We do have a special dinner and talk, and then they go home. But Joyce's daughter is so special. Her son-in-law is so special that when you're with them, I can imagine what she gets from Friday night with them lasts the whole week for her. They are such special people, and I would love to have them as guests at our Reform synagogue sometime, just to talk to us about Shabbat, because they are two of the most beautiful people in the whole world. And I consider myself blessed that I have gotten to know them.
Alice.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. Every word was true and from my heart.
I just wanted to direct people to the last paragraph where she does, the author does explain that it's not just for Jews. She said that Jewish people created portals to this palace of time that could be opened by anyone from anywhere in the world to refresh and renew and remember. So, you know, I think it's not just specific for Jews. Again, you know, I think in a way this was like a sermon for Jews to kind of remind us that this is available to us, but it's not just for Jewish people.
So, you know, I would challenge everybody about Shabbat that, you know, Friday is usually a different type of day. And when I taught kids, I'd say, isn't Saturday different? Yes, it's different. Okay. You know, you don't have to do everything. And obviously, I really encourage you to, you know, light candles. Friday night at my house, when my kids were little, we always had dinner, and not that we didn't have dinner on the other nights, but it worked, and it was always a nice dinner. And once we had a nice dinner in the middle of the week, and my middle son goes, "Wait, we didn't do the blessing." Just because, and then we went, the same kidding, went to someone else's house, and there was a cake, and I don't do cakes, and he's like, whose birthday is it? Anyway, you know, that's how everybody marks time differently. And I think, like here now at Macomb, if you walk to the end, we're counting the Omer, the time between Passover and Shavuot. Every day we put up however many days of the Omer it is. I think it's, we're almost to a week, so it's 7 or 8 today. And, you know, it's for adults as well as kids that we're marking this time. It's 49 days from Passover until Shavuot. Shavuot means weeks. And I also, what?
Why?
Why what? But why do we count the Omer?
Why do we count?
So
That's what I'm having trouble with.
right, okay. We count to get to that holiday. And back in the day, you had to bring an Omer was a sheaf of wheat.
Okay.
Oh no. Oh, there they are.
We thought we lost.
Sorry, we thought we lost. Yeah, but you're still here. And you had to go to the temple. There are 613 commandments, mitzvot. We can't do all of them because the temple doesn't exist. And so the Omer now, you just count it, you say a prayer. Many years ago, I decided to do it with cereal to concretize it for the kids, to show exactly, you know, where we are in the counting of that. And we we donate that cereal to food pantries. And during COVID, when we didn't count the cereal boxes, the food pantries were like, hey, where are the cereal boxes? We're counting from, you know, we're redeemed from Yetziat Mitzrayim, from the Exodus from Egypt to Revelation at Sinai. Shavuot is giving of the Torah. So you're counting that time that you're walking in the desert or whatever,
It's
but
the passage through, it's a passage through from one to the other.
yes. I see, yeah. And look, observant folks use this as a time of semi-mourning. They don't cut their hair. They don't get married. Reform rabbis, probably can do that, except on Lag BaOmer, which is the 33rd day of the Omer, and that it's kind of like a holiday. And in Israel, they have bonfires and archery. I don't know where the archery came from. It's just a thing.
So Vanessa, I have
Yes.
a question.
Yes. And
And I
anyway,
think I mentioned this before in class, that, this was a girl, a woman who taught at, the high school, the Jewish high school, or
Okay.
Zell.
Yeah.
Okay. And she did a study on why young people are heading toward orthodoxy. And we had a long discussion about this, and I'm hearing you talk, and I'm wondering if in a chaotic world, where your life is at stake maybe, or often, or where there is, you feel you have no control over the events that are before you, or in nature, you can't control nature, that this is a method of control, of counting time, and it keeps you grounded. I'm just wondering if that's.
listen, I think that when you're traditional or Orthodox, there's an answer for everything. And my middle kid, who is on the spectrum, I've often thought that he'd probably like to be Orthodox because he'd just say, well, can I do this? No. And, he gets very, I'm getting into my family, but he has colitis. And towards the end of Passover, he goes, Mom, I can't eat any more matzah. I go, don't eat it.
Right.
He knows that's a rule. So to go against it was super hard for him.
Yes.
Elaine,
Okay,
real loud.
years ago, I volunteered for Trove. And the women that worked there at the JUF office were Orthodox. And they would talk about how they spent Shabbat. And were very young women, they had young children. They would take the entire day of Saturday to be with their families. And my kids were off here and we were running there. And I often thought, how nice it would be to get together and play games or read or just think. And we don't do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I keep going back to the same thing. I think this is a metaphor for saving yourself from all of the nuttiness that we are living through nowadays, to stop and think what the devil is going on and to slow everything down. I was watching the news this morning and the police are pushing it. Now, I'm not saying the police are wrong, and I don't know exactly how I feel, but to have, my kids went to the colleges that are reacting now. And to have my kids, if they were there, being pushed by the police, someone is going to get hurt very seriously.
Right.
This is going to
Well,
happen.
your kids would have had to have been at those demonstrations.
Right, exactly, but they
And-
could have been.
I'm talking about your grandkids. The grandkids that I know, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's all I'm
right,
saying.
right.
I'm
But
not
I'm
wrong.
just saying hypothetically, they could have been, okay. So we need to think how we live our lives. And I think this is giving us time, and I think people, not all people, but maybe sometimes when you believe in Shabbat and thinking of sitting a day and doing nothing refreshes you.
Absolutely agreed. And there's many studies that when you go to services and pray, that it lengthens your life and it's good for your health. This is my job, but I like coming to services.
Yeah.
I like hearing Cantor J, sing, and it takes me out of what's happening during the week. Lynn.
I wrote down a word here that after all of the discussion, I think sums up maybe what she's saying, and the word is deliberate. And that, or deliberate, whichever one you want to use, but we often don't I don't say, how am I using my time? Am I thinking about, is this what I want to really be doing, or am I just going crazy, which I did this morning? So, I feel like I'm on, in this world, I feel like I'm on the wheel.
Mhm.
And when is it gonna stop? And when am I gonna have time just to,
Unfortunately, you might not.
no, I kind of feel very much, no, I agree with that.
We need to, how selfish we wanna be, because I like my private time.
Yes, yeah. Okay, now, I am alone now, and I have lots of private time.
Yeah.
And part of me says, okay, I'm all right with this. And part of me says, no, that's too quiet. So I have to do
that.
something.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, that right. Sue.
Well, it was really interesting to listen to everybody. And I agree with a lot of what I've heard. And I've been thinking a lot. I think this book made me think a lot about how I spend my time. And I do happen to be somebody who prays every morning when I wake up and pray every night when I go to bed. I don't know if it's doing any good or not, but it's a habit I've gotten into, and I would be I would be upset if I forgot. So
I love that.
but I think that as we grow older, time seems to go faster. I find that since I lost my husband, each day goes pretty slow if I haven't got a lot to do that day. But as a rule, time generally, as we grow older, just seems to go fast. Do you remember when you were very young and you would be waiting for something to happen? I remember waiting to be 5 years old, and it seemed like it would never come because I thought if I could just be 5. I mean, how silly is that? But on the other hand, now I'm 85 and it happened so fast. How did that happen? So, the way we spend our time is really very, very important. And anyway, I guess I just really wanted to point out the fact that the time that as we grow older, it just goes so fast.
I agree with that. Alice.
Yeah, well, a couple things. Sue, you are right. And I have to tell you, I know this because of a math teacher that I had in high school. And I don't even know how it came up, but he explained to us, and if you think of it in this way, I think you'll understand that it is true that as you age, time seems to go faster. I guess it's I don't know, maybe, I don't know anything about Einstein. Maybe it's the theory of relativity, but think about it. When you're 5 years old, a year is a fifth of your life. When you're 85 years old, it's 1/85th of your life. It's more than just seeming it. I just said it to my husband the other day. I can't even remember what came up. I said, oh my God, oh, I know what it was. I said, Passover's already over. I said, I feel like it just started. And you know what? It's true. And the other thing I want to say about time is I think this is something that has been said to young people who are raising their family. The days are long, but the years go quickly, because I just think about when I'm with my daughter who has a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. It's like her days, I can't even think about all the things that they do in one day, and it's a long day and she's exhausted at the end of it. But then her kids are growing up so fast is the other thing. So, but one more thing I just wanted to say is when you think about it, and I think we've all kind of said this in different ways, what is a life but time? What is a life but time on this earth, and it's like, I guess we have to decide how we use it. You know, that's best for us, best for ourselves, for our family.
Here, Ellen and then Lynn.
Yeah, I don't want to belittle anything, but I so agreed with what Sue said. It's really, and the fractional way, Alice, you described it, from the math teacher is right. But the easy way, I think, to think of it, and the reason why time goes so fast for us as we get older, is that we realize we have so little left. There was so much before us, but we have so little left. And so the lesson I think we're left with is using it well. And so you go to bed, whether you pray or you just think about things at night, and you think, did I waste time, or could I have used it better? And if we can continue to do that little, that job, a very important job, a little bit better each day, month, year, then we have to be on the right track.
I love coming here.
Thank you, Lynn.
Well, Ellen, I think, and I'm not using this as a therapy session. Because of that short amount of time, which we're on the back 9 if you're a golfer.
Yeah.
Our greatest conflicts in our marriage is, what are we going to do with our time? It's a priority. I want to do this. Well, I want to do that. So that is an issue. And I never realized until talking about this. What you're going to do with that time remaining is in the person's own life and priorities and goals and values. So if you're not on the same track, that could be problematic.
Disastrous.
Yes.
Terry, then Merle.
I'm sorry I missed the beginning, because this sounds like it was amazing, and I'm sorry I had someone at my house working, so I assume it's recorded so I can pick up all the.
Putting on a little late, but I'll make sure you get it.
Thank you. Couple things. First of all, I think I thought a lot about time during COVID, because we didn't have the structure that we were used to. And I remember saying, I didn't even know, like, every day was Blur's Day. I literally could not figure out what day it was, because I didn't have my normal routines. But I think when people said, oh my God, the days are going so slowly and there's nothing to do. And I thought, there's so much to do. There were a million webinars. You could watch webinars all day long. I got involved with things from the Stryker Center and the women authors, and a lot of great things. I looked up recipes online. I cooked a lot. So I feel like a lot of it is deciding that if you want to use your time well, there's lots you can do. And if you just want to sit around and be bored, well, you can do that too. But I think it's a choice. And the other piece was, and this, I kind of came in late in terms of the Shabbat observations, but I was thinking about the fact that when we go to our children who live in Portland, Oregon and Brookline, Massachusetts, Friday night dinner is such an important part of their lives, for which I am so grateful. And if we lived in one of their cities, or they lived in Chicago, I'm sure we would be celebrating with them every Friday night. Sadly, we're not together all the time. But one of the things I learned from the Brookline family is the thorn, the rose, and the bud, which I don't know if any of you have ever done that over the years. We did it more when the kids were little, but everyone went around the table and talked about their week. What was your thorn? What was your rose? And your bud was what you were. Your thorn obviously was something that wasn't so great. The rose was the good thing, and the bud was what you had to look forward to. And I think just singing around the table, lighting candles together, and just being together as a family continues to be very special. And I love that our grandchildren have seen that throughout their lives.
I think thorn, bud, and rose are great. And we actually, our Boston family does it as well. But Terry, what I encourage you is that we do blessings every week, because I have family. Well, the one kid is in California right now. My grandkids live in DC, and we light candles, we do kiddush, we do the parental blessing. And I want my grandkids to hear that. I want my grandkids to see that we do. So, there with technology now, there's a way around. I have Merle, then Judy.
Okay, when I was teaching ESL, a very typical assignment was, how do you spend your day? And people would start out with, I wake up, I eat breakfast, I brush my teeth. But there were people who were religious, mostly Hispanic people, who said, the first thing I do when I wake up is I pray. And I thank God for giving me another day of life. And I thought that was so beautiful because they didn't start out with a to-do list, but something much more spiritual. And I've heard Buddhists talk about this too, like Americans who have become Buddhists, that you get up in the morning and you set your motivation for the day, which is something different from a to-do list, that you promise yourself you're going to do something spiritual or something philanthropic or help someone do something that they can't do alone. And I think it was just a different way of thinking about time instead of everything as a to-do list. And I was very inspired by those two ways of looking at how to spend your time.
Lovely.
Great.
Judy, then Evie.
My story is based on having children participate. At our Passover, it's sort of a fun story. There's a 2.5-year-old, very precocious. So the grandmother read the 4 questions, but the first sentence, and the 2.5-year-old repeated the sentence.
Nice.
And then she got to, and why do we eat bitter herbs? And the little girl said, I don't know. It was very,
Very cute, very cute.
that's important. It's
Yeah.
important to
Yes,
participate.
Absolutely. Evie. Oh, wait. Unmute.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. I think in my process, I think have been becoming more and more of a Jew boo. And so I do appreciate, what Merle had just said, and I do try to say the Moda Ani in the morning when I can, because that's a reminder of God looking upon me to do my best, or his confidence in me, and so forth. But I also want to give out, and this is a commercial to Jewish camping, because I think my kids who have gone to Azrui have really benefited from Shabbat and the traditions, and it's just so beautiful to see what they carry out in their home, not strictly, but just the whole spirit on Friday night, and how being part of their synagogue is so important to them. And I think that my best Jewish experience that I ever had was the one summer that I was able to work at Camp Ramah. I never went to Jewish camp. It was just not in our whatever, but to me, that camping experience and living life and living Shabbat really has kind of been meaningful to me all of these years. And I hope it will, for my grandchildren who have had that opportunity as well.
Really beautiful. I met your grandson last year. He was,
My other one's going to be counselor this year and song leader.
great. All right, we'll talk. What?
I want to give a pitch for you guys to come back into class.
Okay.
Look at the time you have in the morning. Maybe you need to restructure your time so that you have a little bit more to get ready. It's gorgeous outside.
We'd like to see you.
We like to see you, and we like to talk and schmooze, and it's a
We
different
want you
feeling.
to meet my It's new to Macomb.
Yes.
So, I mean, none of this is a secret. I just turned 65. People,
Michelle.
yeah, we're the same age. And people say to me all the time, not just congregants, Kyle, well, so when are you retiring? And I just signed a 2-year contract. Again, thank you. No secret. But, people, I said, I like what I do. I find great meaning in meeting with you, doing the other book club, doing, thinking of all the things that we can do. It's could not be more meaningful to me. And, I love what I do. And, we've brought a lot of things together, between our two legacy congregations. And, it's a great feeling. And I do feel bad for people who, have been in jobs that they don't find fulfilling and they don't like. And I think, the whole bit of time and what you're doing with your time, and it's been very upsetting for me since October 7th, and now seeing this discussion, the protests on the campus is just absolutely devastating for me. And I finally had to turn the TV off.
I couldn't watch the TV this morning.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. Last night I was watching about Columbia and I was like, I gotta turn this off. And
We're all doing that.
I said at our staff meeting that, we need to have some conversations for our students, and maybe we need, our college students. Maybe we need to have conversation for their parents. For the parents. And this room, but amongst the senior staff, like, well, it can't be one narrative. I think it's not going to be one narrative. We can be inclusive and welcoming, but it's really
The
difficult.
journalists have not done a favor on their coverage of this.
No, they have
Yeah,
not. It's been.
There was an article, I don't know if anyone read this in the Tribune, and I think the student was at Highland Park.
Oh,
The last name was Gervy. Does that sound familiar? So I was saying, it was pervasive. I mean, it was. I'm reading it to Gary, and he stops me. And I say, well, does she know about this? And then I keep reading. He said, well, does she know about this? So there are huge gaps
Truly.
in factual
Truly.
knowledge.
Truly.
And I don't
Truly.
think this is
Something I read that TikTok has 1,000 articles about Hamas and 2 about Israel, and the kids are getting their information from TikTok. And I think eventually it'll come up. Who is sponsoring these kids? Who are buying the tents? Who are doing all this? And you will
not
see
the
When
kids.
they
it's
return
not
the
it's not the
hostages
kids.
Yeah,
to the
I
various
heard that.
countries, and
Yes.
when they.
I didn't,
Like this, I will be able to have my mind clear to think about other things.
agreed.
But I do not have the capacity.
I tried to call Miss Scurvy. I sent a message to her and she just gave me a text back. She didn't want to talk.
Susan, go ahead.
So I want everybody to see the T-shirt I'm wearing.
This is
I don't know, can you see it backwards? Is that the problem? It says courage. And on the back is a logo from the FIDF. And that's my protest. I'm wearing it out this afternoon, and anybody that doesn't like it, tough.
I love it. I love it. Now Sandy, go ahead.
Well, I did want to mention, that I tried calling Miss Scurvy because that letter really bothered me. She apparently didn't want to talk. She just answered with a text asking what I wanted, but didn't respond or call me back. The other thing is we've got to realize that most of these protesters are not Palestinians. If you look at them, a large number of them are American Blacks. A large number of them.
Yeah,
I disagree with that.
totally disagree with that.
They're Russians.
They're privileged kids who go.
Right. The ones at Wisconsin today were not Black or Palestinian. They were spoiled kids. If you looked at Madison, Wisconsin on TV this morning, most of these people are just having a good time, they think. They're socializing, the weather's good, they're sleeping out in tents. It's a party to them, and they have no idea what the whole thing is about.
That I agree with. And I highly recommend Bill Maher. He's had some great people on. He is fantastic.
Also Como. very.
Colbert.
No, Como.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
no.
He's had some
Okay.
very interesting.
interesting.
people
I
on.
haven't seen it yet.
Sandy, can you send me the contact information for this Gervy person?
Who is this that's talking?
Lynn,
Lynn,
Lynn? Okay,
or send it to me and I'll send it to Lynn.
okay.
I want to answer her and I'm gonna get my husband to answer her as well.
Wow.
Is she Jewish?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I did want to talk a little bit about the calendar. We next meet on May 15th. Then we meet on June 5th, and June 5th will be the last time. And, because June 19th is Juneteenth and we're closed. So,
What's the May?
it's May 15th.
May
So we're
15th,
skipping.
and then.
It's the first and the
Yeah,
third.
yeah.
And then it's the first in June, and then we're off for July.
Wait, so it's May 15 and June 1st?
Fifth.
Yeah,
And June
June
5th.
5th.
5th,
June 5th.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And I'll send this all out in an email. What a great discussion. It makes me just think about so many other things. When you have these short stories, I was like, oi, are we gonna have enough to talk about? We didn't
always
even
find
get
a
to the
way.
questions. So, thank you, everyone. Lot going on at Macomb. Read your Macomb at home. If you need any help, let me know. And we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Be
This is
well.
the next story? The next story?
The next story is.
Oh, the next story is
Yophiel.
Yophiel.
Yeah.
Another long
These
story.
stories get better.
Yes, I think some of the other ones, she has other stories based on true stories, if that makes sense, and they're fascinating. And
It's lighter.
what?
It's lighter.
It's way lighter. And I think they're easier to get into.
And also these questions.
Right.
They're not meant for.
No, I think they're meant, yeah.
No,
They're meant for.
All right.
okay.
Yes, Ellen, question?
I was just gonna say to the whole class, I love this, love the class, but remind Vanessa to record in the beginning next session because I'm not gonna make it and I want to hear it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.
I know.
Right. 65.